A few months ago now, near the beginning of this year, I switched over entirely to using a neutral grip for my pull-ups. Initially, it was out of necessity. I had become obsessed with mastering the tuck planche and pushed the high-intensity volume way higher than I had any right to, and my body paid me back in the only reasonable way by granting me my first ever case of elbow tendinitis. I wasn't going to stop doing pull-ups altogether though, and the neutral grip didn't cause any pain, so that's what I did. Rest and backing off from the excessive straight arm planche work did fix the problem quickly, by the way. My elbows feel great now, and just to say, I don't believe it was the planche work itself that caused the problem, but the fact that I was just doing too much at once. Anyway, even fully healed, to this day I still use the neutral grip pull-up as my primary variation. It's just too good to pass on. When you're forced to stick with one specific exercise for a long time, you begin to understand it in a way you never could otherwise. You start to notice all the subtle details that make it valuable and set it apart from other similar movements. For me, the more I worked with the neutral grip pull-up, the more I realized it's the perfect fit for someone with my goals, someone obsessed with both getting stronger at lifting sandbags and building muscle. Let me start with muscle. Along with frequent sandbag training, months of neutral grip pull-up specialization changed the way my arms look. It's impossible to say which contributed more, sandbags or pull-ups, but personally I think the combination of the two together is the secret. It's often the combining of both moderate and heavy weights that causes the best gains in muscle size. Sandbags worked that neutral grip arm position with ultra heavy weights, and the pull-ups did so in the more traditional hypertrophy rep range. I don't think my arms are actually that big all said and done, but something changed this year to make them seem bigger than they are. A bit of bodybuilding wisdom makes that something clear. It's all about the brachialis. This is the muscle usually associated with hammer curls, known for making your arms look thicker and more dense while making the bicep peak more pronounced, which is exactly what I've experienced from neutral grip pull-ups and heavy sandbag lifting. This proved something to me. While basic hammer curls can be effective, they often miss the mark by a noticeable margin. I did a lot of Swiss bar curls in the past, which is basically hammer curls with a barbell, and while they did work, they didn't work this well. Most experienced lifters will tell you, when it comes to the brachialis, if you want that dense appearance, that look that just looks strong, lightweight probably isn't going to cut it. This muscle is meant for moving some real tonnage, and I'm glad to say I've now experienced the truth for myself. Heavy, frequent, high-volume work with my arms in a neutral position made my arms look dense. Maybe not yet fit for a bodybuilding stage, but more than ready if that ruggedly strong look is the goal. I've come to realize brachialis specialization is like focusing on the upper traps. Something about it just makes you look powerful. It's always interesting how building specific muscles over others can dramatically change the way you look, even if you don't actually add much size. Everyone has their own list of most important muscle groups for looking big. I always think back to Alex Leonidas and his naturally enhanced look, focusing on the neck, upper traps, and forearms, among other things. I think now that I've seen how big an impact the muscle can have, I'd definitely add the brachialis to my list. It's one of those muscles that just seems like it's meant to be there. Like if you could somehow time travel back a couple hundred years and visit a local tavern filled with strong men who work the land and depend on the strength of their own bodies for survival, every single one of them would have well-developed brachialis muscles. Now let's talk about carryover to lifting sandbags. I've mentioned this briefly already, but your arms are usually in a neutral position when lifting sandbags, so neutral grip pull-ups just make sense, but there's more to it than that. It's how the exercise makes your entire upper body work, beyond just the arms and the back, that makes it special. I should quickly clarify, I'm talking about using a fixed pull-up bar here, not gymnastics rings. Rings are awesome and have their place, but for this specific scenario, you'll want a fixed pull-up bar. The reason for this is simple. A fixed bar won't move when you squeeze your hands together, and rings will. That squeezing your hands together is one of the secrets to the exercise. Neutral grip pull-ups on a fixed bar can be used to improve your bear hug grip strength. This is a big deal because the bear hug grip is fundamental to lifting heavy sandbags. It's the power of your arms and chest and shoulders to squeeze something and hold it there. It's often grip strength that goes out before anything else when doing something like a sandbag carry, so anything you can do to improve it is worthwhile, especially if that strength comes at no extra cost. There's only so much volume you can do with an actual sandbag, but you can push your pull-up volume pretty high before running into recovery issues. Nothing compares to actually lifting something heavy with a bear hug grip, but a bit of extra indirect work does go a long way. It's easy to do too. When you're doing your neutral grip pull-ups, just squeeze your forearms together towards each other as hard as you can, all the way from your hands to your elbows, and maintain that tension throughout the set. This engages the chest a surprising amount and might actually let you do more pull-ups than you otherwise could. That bear hug strength, paired with the brachialis-focused neutral grip strength you get, makes the exercise incredible for improving your sandbag lifting without needing to actually lift a sandbag. There's another thing you can do to take this even further, to make the neutral grip pull-up an even better accessory movement for sandbag lifting. You can use a false grip. A false grip is essentially gripping a bar with a completely flexed wrist. The angle between your hand and your forearm will be roughly 90 degrees in this position, maybe a bit wider. It may seem counterintuitive and may even be impossible to do at first, but with time it becomes a very strong position and will lead to bigger forearms and stronger wrists. Why the false grip? Well, if you've been lifting sandbags for a while, you've probably been using a false grip already without even realizing it. To lift a sandbag from the ground, you need to wedge your hands underneath each side, and to do that, you're forced into a false grip position. I still remember when I first started working with stones and sandbags, I kept thinking I was doing something wrong because I'd have this weird sensation in my forearms. I thought maybe I was using my biceps too much or something, but I quickly realized it was just my arms adapting to the new flexed wrist position. It can feel a bit unnatural at first, but it is necessary. Pull-ups are a great way to improve your false grip strength in a controlled and most likely more familiar setting without needing to worry about the 100 other things that might be going through your head when trying to control a heavy sandbag. For an even greater stimulus, you can also do this with fat grips, though I'm still working at that myself. A false grip is already tough enough on its own. Trying to prevent the fat grips from rotating at the same time is something else. All combined together, this has to be the ultimate pull-up variation for those interested in lifting heavy sandbags. The end goal is to eventually do your pull-ups like this. Grab onto the pull-up bar with a false grip, squeeze your hands and forearms towards each other, mimicking a bear hug and engaging your chest, brace your abs hard, and pull as explosively as you can. It's a great feeling when you get it down. A final note about the false grip. I should say that pull-ups are mainly a back exercise, and taken away from that is a fail in my opinion. You should never allow grip strength to be what limits your pull-ups. It should always be the back, so you'll want to start slow. Start by adding a false grip to your last set of pull-ups for the day, and slowly build up the volume over time. And that's been my experience with neutral grip pull-up specialization. My arms look bigger and stronger, my back continues to grow, my sandbag lifting has improved, and my elbows feel great. It doesn't get better than that. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.